Good evening. Welcome to StormCast. I'm your host, Joey Pisani, here again with Stephen Kimball, and we have Jesse Lady Disaster with us tonight. Tonight our topic is Tropical Storm Colin, and Jesse, no, we're not talking about your husband. We're talking about the tropical storm right now that is centered in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is expected to make impact along the Florida coast tomorrow afternoon. Let's get right to it. The latest, as of the latest advisory, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, Tropical Storm Colin has winds of 40 miles per hour. Its central pressure is at 1,003 millibars. It is moving north right now at 9 miles per hour. And that general northern movement is expected through the rest of this evening, and then it will become more of a north-northeasterly, and then by tomorrow afternoon, shift to a northeasterly movement, and then it will quickly race across the northeastern part of the Florida Panhandle, southeastern Georgia by tomorrow night, and then off the coast of the Carolinas by Tuesday afternoon. We're not expecting a whole lot of major impacts from this. But one thing we are expecting is quite a bit of rain, especially across portions of the Florida Panhandle, southeast Georgia, and the coastal Carolinas. We could see anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, all the way from the Florida Keys, all the way over toward Tallahassee, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, up the Carolina coast, Charleston, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. All those places could see 2 to 4 inches of rain. We could see some higher amounts, 4 to 6 inches, up to maybe locally 8 inches across portions of western Florida, especially in and around the Tampa Bay area, Apalachicola, Florida, down in Valdosta, Georgia, Lake City, Florida area, possibly 4 to 6 inches with some higher amounts. So we could see, especially, it'll be interesting across portions of the western coast of Florida, may get some coastal flooding, especially in and around the Tampa Bay area. So definitely keeping an eye on that. There is currently a tropical storm warning in effect right now for portions of the west coast of Florida and the panhandle of Florida. So let me get you that exact information here.
On Facebook.
We have a tropical storm warning from Indian Pass, Florida to Englewood, and a tropical storm watch for Altama Sound to Flagler, Volusia County line in Florida. Tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within the warning area within 24 hours, and a tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible within the watch area within 36 to 48 hours. Watches or warnings may need to be extended northward along the southeast United States coast later tonight. So, again, maximum sustained winds right now are near 40 miles per hour with higher gusts. Some strengthening is forecast before Colin reaches the coast of Florida. Rainfall amounts, again, 3 to 5 inches with isolated amounts up to 8 inches across the northeastern Yucatan Peninsula, western Cuba, and Florida. Storm surge, the combination of storm surge and the tide, will cause normally dry areas near the coast to be flooded by rising waters. The water could reach the following heights above ground if the peak surge occurs at the time of high tide. So from Indian Pass to Tampa Bay, we're looking at 1 to 3 feet with slightly higher amounts possible in a few locations. From Tampa Bay south to Florida Bay, we're looking only at 1 to 2 feet of storm surge. But again, localized coastal flooding and dangerous surf is possible along the Florida East Coast within the tropical storm watch area. So that is our latest update on Tropical Storm Colin, with a new advisory that will be coming out at 11 o'clock. Steven, Jesse, do you guys have anything to add to that about Tropical Storm Colin? Yeah, pretty well covered. I mean, my sister actually lives down in the Tampa Bay, Florida area, so I let her know to be ready for that tomorrow. So that should be fun for them down there. So that is the latest on Tropical Storm Colin. All right, so with us now we have Cameron, who is from Greensboro, North Carolina. He is one of our radar techs for the EWV Live Network, so it's good to have you on here with us, Cameron. So tell us, what are your thoughts on Tropical Storm Colin? What are you expecting some of the impacts to be, and both tropical-wise and severe storm-wise there?
Well, so there's the path of Tropical Storm Colin. It is going to go to the right across the northern Florida and southern Georgia, right along the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina. They already have a tropical storm warning out for the coastal Gulf Coast of Florida. Severe weather-wise, let me switch over here to the
SPC for tomorrow.
SPC.
They have a slight risk.
SPC for tomorrow, if it'll come up.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, my computer's a little slow. So, while that's coming up, back up here.
Sounds like a plan there, Dan.
So I can pull it up here on my phone. And I do believe we may have a pretty good severe weather threat with this in the Florida area.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that we have landfalling tropical systems, we always have a threat for severe weather. There you go, yep. So we got that slight risk across much of Florida, southeast Georgia. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. Now, the second thing I want to talk about today, guys, is we had an enhanced risk of severe weather for today for portions of southeast Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. However, today we only had one tornado report, 191 wind reports, and six hail reports. So while we did have a lot of wind damage reports, the tornado threat was extremely minimal. And one reason I think that the tornado threat was so low is because the cold front, which is the source of lift, wasn't able to get as far east as it was anticipated. So we didn't have that strong lifting mechanism to get those air parcels to rise, to get those storm updrafts to really get growing. All the ingredients were in place. If you notice, we had decent cape, we had wind shear. We just didn't have that source of lift brought to us by the cold front, which is why those storms today were primarily wind damage, wind bursts, and not any tornado, very little hail as well. So any questions about, today? I know Dan has a couple of radar questions in the chat that he wants to ask. So go ahead there, Dan, and give us your radar questions. Also, while Dan's doing that, Jesse, would you like to give us an update? We want to let you guys know that we are now launching a new product from Extreme Weather Videos. It is our very own online radio station. So, Jesse, take a minute and tell us about EWV Radio and where you can find it and how it works. And then after that, we'll get to Dan's radar questions.
excuse me, EWV Radio is brought to you live right here from my computer. Everything is ran right here. I can play music, the stuff that
10-4-3-2
goes over some of our fellow channels, such as our mutual aid rooms, the weather warnings, are all broadcast live via the internet through the website of extremeweathervideos.com.
Yep. So we will be. We just launched that this week. Tomorrow will probably be like its first full day of action. So make sure to check that out. Again, the link, I'm going to post it up here for you guys, is extremeweathervideos.com/radio. Stand by there, 302. So let me post it up here for you guys here on the blab so you can have access to it right here. So make sure you bookmark that page, share it with friends, family, get the word out because it is going to be awesome. Another cool thing about it is when there's not active weather, we're just going to have a variety of all sorts of genres of music on there for your listening enjoyment, brought to you by Lady Disaster.
And I do take requests.
So, yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. All right, so Dan asked us a question tonight, which is going to be our meteorology topic of the evening. He asked, what is the difference between base velocity and storm relative velocity on radar? There are two basic different types. They are slightly different, and they each have their own uses. So tonight we are going to explore the basics of base velocities, and then next we'll investigate storm relative velocities. Now I realize that you've probably never worked with images of base velocities before, so let's kick off the discussion with a rather simple example rooted in a straight line flow of air. Okay, so imagine air flowing from southwest to northeast in a straight line. Okay, so you have negative velocities in the blues and the greens, and you have positive velocities in the reds, yellows, and oranges. Okay, and in the middle you have your line. I really should have my webcam so I could show this to you. Hold on one second. I'm going to actually pull this up and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, right. So again, now that I got these images up here, base velocities here, this is what we're looking at. For base velocities, you have winds blowing toward the radar and winds blowing away from the radar. So the winds blowing toward the radar are your negative velocities in your blues and greens. The winds blowing away from the radar are your positive velocities. So that's when you're looking at base velocities. It's just showing you which way the wind is blowing. Is it blowing toward the radar or away from the radar? Now let me switch over here to storm relative velocities for you. Okay, I don't know whose music that is, but that's really annoying. Okay, so let's continue. So now that you've seen those images of your base velocities, you look at that color-coded key along the bottom, which basically indicates the wind speed. The brighter colors, it depends on whether you're using GR level 3 or radar scope. Brighter colors indicate higher wind speeds. Basically, the center is like calm winds, and then as you get further toward the either negative or positive velocities, the wind speeds get brighter. Now, how do we apply base velocities to radar? Base velocities are ground relative winds, meaning that they indicate the speed of the radial component of the wind relative to the ground. So, if there's a fast-moving severe thunderstorm that's producing damaging straight-line winds, much like we had today, the forward motion of the storm can contribute to the overall motion relative to the ground. In other words, what the observed wind speed is at the ground. Those are your base velocities. Here's an easy way to understand this. Imagine a robber in the old Wild West running atop a moving train. His absolute speed equals his running speed plus the speed of the moving train. So in light of a severe storm's forward motion, the overall wind speed, which is measured relative to the ground, that is your base velocity. When you're looking at images of base velocities, there's a heightened risk for damaging straight line winds when you see those higher values of base velocities. Oftentimes, you can use base velocities to see downbursts such as microbursts, which are small downbursts, which typically range on a scale of less than 2.5 miles, to a macroburst, which has a horizontal scale of damaging winds greater than 4 miles. Now, storm relative velocities. Storm relative velocities is what we use to be able to track rotating updrafts and mesocyclonic circulations. So basically, if we're looking at a storm, we want to be able to detect the storm's mesocyclone because it's very important for when we're nowcasting. So, as it turns out, looking at images of base velocities isn't going to be your best bet. So, you're going to want to look at storm relative velocities because basically base velocities dilute. It kind of puts a mask over that mesocyclone circulation, especially if the mesocyclone is really strong. You're not going to be able to see it very well on base velocities. But when you switch over to storm relative velocities, it allows you to see not only the forward motion of the storm, but it also shows you the environment of that rotating updraft that's hiding in that mesocyclonic circulation that your base velocity is going to pick up. Because remember, your base velocity, it is just measuring winds going in straight direction, either toward or away from the radar. It doesn't really pick up the rotation on that. Whereas storm relative velocities can pick up on rotation a lot easier than base velocities. So, any questions about that, Dan? Base velocities, again, you're going to use base velocities if you want to be able to pick up straight line winds. Base velocities is excellent for picking up straight line winds. Storm relative velocities are much more better for indicating rotation in mesocyclonic circulations. So I hope that helped you out and you all learned something tonight in our little meteorology forecasting lesson. I'll open it up for any questions or any further detailed explanations that you guys would like. Jesse, you have any questions on that? Take some notes over there.
So base velocity is like up underneath the storm itself, right?
Yes, whereas storm relative, the keyword is relative. So it picks up those winds within the mesocyclone circulation. It's not measuring winds only whether they're blowing toward or away from the radar. It's measuring those little pockets of wind that are rotating.
Copy that. And the storm relative velocity is a whole storm itself.
Yes, exactly. So obviously on storm relative velocities, you can pick up those velocity couplets a lot clearer than you can on the base velocities. You'll be able to see them on the base velocities, but again, the velocity couplet on an image of base velocities is not going to, especially when the mesocyclone's strong, it's not going to show you what's called the mean cloud winds. When we have those strong mean cloud winds, aka your mesocyclone, images of base velocities are often going to fail you and let you down. So you want to stick with storm relative velocities when you want to detect rotation in thunderstorms. And also, don't forget to use images of reflectivity together with your storm relative velocities imageries, because you need both pieces of evidence to seal the deal on detecting mesocyclones. So I know I talked to Jesse about this a week or two ago, saying when I'm looking for rotation, first thing I look at is my base reflectivity. Yeah, you want to look for that hooking structure. Yeah. The second thing I'm going to look at is my base velocity, see if it's straight line winds or if there's possibility of a mesocyclone in there. Also, that's why we have those meso markers. And then third, I'm going to go to my storm relative velocities and really be able to pick out the mesocyclone in the severe thunderstorm. So that is tonight's lesson on base velocities and storm relative velocities.
You kind of froze up there for a second there, Joey.
All right, so let's go for the big finish. We'll start with Steven. Steven, any thoughts or what's going on? What's your week been like up there weather-wise? What are you looking forward to this week weather-wise? What's something you saw this past week that really stuck out to you?
Well, what stuck out to me is, all the police shootings that has happened in the past, kind of, hearing all these police officers getting shot and getting killed, it really puts people's minds into their minds, they put their lives on the line every single day. Every single day, people put their lives on the lines. Doesn't matter if it's fire department, police department, or EMS, or and stuff like that. When they're on duty, they don't know what's going to happen when they go on shift. They don't know if they're going to go home or if they're going to go home. Not go home.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, I like that comment down there.
Every day we, every day I'm always thinking, not only my buddies, but even myself.
Yeah, being a firefighter and all that, yeah.
Because you don't know when you're going to come home, if you're going to come home or you're not going to, because something might happen or you got hurt or got killed, in a situation. But, every day I'm praying for all those people. I mean, those guys are the heroes of the communities, of the cities.
That's absolutely right. We have to definitely appreciate our firefighters, EMS, police, emergency workers, all the law enforcement. So yeah, it's definitely it's a calling to work in something like that. So thank you, definitely for your thoughts there. Cameron,
yeah.
What are your closing thoughts for this evening here?
I thought we had a good topic tonight. It was really good. Let's see, this week I captured one of these this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got some decent storms up there this week, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Luckily, unfortunately, today was a bust.
Yeah. Today was didn't quite get the lift in the atmosphere that we need. We had all the other ingredients, but wasn't quite able to get that lift to get those air parcels to the level of free convection to be able to race off into the atmosphere and form those updrafts of those storms. But still, nonetheless, we had over 160 wind reports today and one tornado report. So still turned out to be a decent day. Yeah, nice. Awesome, man. What about you, Jesse? What are you looking forward to this week? What are your close-in thoughts for this week's blab here on StormCast? Besides the fact that this tropical storm is named after your husband.
Hey, you see some of them comments down there? They're hilarious.
Is anything about my husband on that one? Thank you. They're both filled with hot air. Just watching the storms this week and making sure that everybody stays safe and running the radio and.
The radio is definitely going to be pretty awesome. That's going to be pretty. Definitely looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Definitely keeping everybody up to date with everything there, and just kind of doing my best while you're at work to keep our team safe. And that's about it.
Awesome. Any closing comments from Dan or Chris? I know they're watching with us right now, so leave us your closing comments or questions there for us. I know Chris said that she's looking forward to the radio and says it's an awesome implement to the team.
The radio was kind of a vision of Joey's, and well, I helped him make it come true.
Yeah. And excellent comment there as well, Chris. She says, rip for the military that were caught in the flood rescuing those in Texas. Yeah, we had that Texas flooding going on. So we hope that they definitely rest in peace. Again, it kind of goes back to what Steve was saying earlier about appreciating our law enforcement, our military, our emergency workers, all those type of people that, put their lives at risk each and every day to serve us and keep us safe. And Dan's interesting closing comment is he says that Milwaukee area had some weather move through today. He received some minor damage reports with tree damage. 66 mile per hour winds confirmed. Otherwise, he's looking forward to the new EWV radio and is glad to be here. And we are glad that you are all here with us as well. Be sure to continue to spread the word about the EWV Live Network. And we hope to have you all join us again next Sunday night for StormCast. It has been a pleasure having you all on here with us tonight. And we hope everyone has a great week and stay safe this coming week with the storms in Florida and any other weather that we have.